Today, we're unlocking a really powerful toolkit for smarter thinking, the 16 Habits of Mind. We're talking about the specific mental behaviors used by some of the world's most effective problem solvers. And by the end of this, you're going to have a map to start using them yourself.
So, let's start with a big question. What do really smart people do when they hit a wall? The secret isn't what they know. It's not about having some hidden stash of facts. The real magic is in how they think, especially when the answer isn't obvious at all.
And that right there is where the habits of mind come in. This framework, developed by educator Arthur L. Costa, pinpoints the exact mental habits of highly effective people. So think of it less like a strict rule book and more like a strategic playbook for your brain.
Now, there are 16 of these habits in total, and I know what you might be thinking. That sounds like a lot, but they aren't just a random list of tips. They actually form a complete system that can literally upgrade how you solve problems, learn new things, and work with other people.
To make this playbook way easier to use, we're not going to just run through all 16. Instead, we'll group them into 3 core themes. This structure makes them much easier to remember and, way more importantly, actually apply in your own life.
Okay, our first theme is all about navigating tough challenges. This is your go-to toolkit for when you're feeling stuck, frustrated, and the path forward is, anything but clear. These habits actually lay out a pretty clear process for getting unstuck. It all starts with managing impulsivity. So instead of just reacting, you pause and you think. That little pause creates the space to think flexibly, opening your mind to totally new possibilities. From there, you persist. You push through the hard stuff with a purpose. And finally, you take a responsible risk by trying something new, maybe even a little unconventional, knowing that's where the real growth happens. So the big idea here is to shift from just using brute force to having a more mindful response. It's all about that pause, adapting your thinking, and then moving forward with a smarter strategy. It's about being deliberate, especially when things get difficult. All right, on to our second big theme, sharpening your mind. Now, if that first theme was about how you react to external challenges, this one is all about the internal work. It's what you need to do to become a clearer, more precise, and way more insightful thinker. And the cornerstone here is something called metacognition, which is really just a fancy way of saying thinking about your own thinking. It's like having an internal coach that notices when you're losing focus or questions your assumptions. You know that moment when you're reading a book and you realize your mind is totally drifted off? That simple act of noticing and bringing your focus back, that is metacognition, and honestly, it's a superpower for learning. This also brings up the habit of thinking and communicating with absolute clarity. I mean, look at this. Saying the project is okay, what does that even mean? It's vague, it's unhelpful, but saying the design is complete, but the user flow needs improvement. Now that is specific, it's actionable. Clear language doesn't just happen, it comes from clear thinking. And right alongside clarity is striving for accuracy. This is the habit of just caring about getting it right, holding yourself to a high standard, double-checking your work. It's all about aiming for quality. But how do you find that clarity? How do you make sure you're accurate? Well, a lot of the time, it starts with another really powerful habit, questioning and posing problems. So instead of just passively taking in information, really effective thinkers are always poking and prodding.
Questions like, what's the evidence for this? Or, wait, how do we know that's true? These are the essential tools of a sharp mind. They challenge our assumptions, they demand proof, and they help us dig for a much deeper, more real understanding of the world.
And that leads us perfectly into our third and final theme, growing with the world. Because here's the thing, true intelligence isn't a solo act. The smartest, most effective thinkers are almost always collaborative, humble, and just endlessly curious. A huge part of this is listening with understanding and empathy. Just look at this question on the screen. It doesn't judge, it doesn't try to offer a solution, it just reflects back what was heard, trying to see the world from someone else's point of view. It's such a powerful way to build connections and, frankly, to gather way better information. Next up, we have thinking interdependently. This is just based on the simple but really profound idea that we are so often smarter together than we are alone. It's all about collaboration, building on each other's ideas to create something way better than any one person could have come up with by themselves. This theme also includes finding humor, which lets you stay resilient and creative when things go wrong. And maybe most important of all, remaining open to continuous learning. This is all about having the humility to admit you don't know everything and having that deep curiosity that just drives you to keep growing. Okay, so we've covered the 3 core themes and a whole bunch of the 16 habits. So the big question is, how do we actually put this amazing toolkit to work in our day-to-day lives? Just remember this simple framework. When you're stuck, focus on navigating challenges. When you really need to think deeply about something, pull from your sharpening your mind habits. And when you're working with other people or trying to learn something new, lean right into growing with the world. And here's why this really matters. These are not just some abstract academic ideas. They are real, concrete life skills. Practicing them will make you more adaptable in this constantly changing world, more creative when you solve problems, and a whole lot more resilient when you inevitably face setbacks.
So I'll leave you with a direct challenge. You don't need to try and master all 16 of these overnight. Just pick one. Which of these habits really resonated with you just now? Which single habit, if you started practicing it today, would make the biggest difference in your work, your studies, or your life?